In a downtown bus depot, a dispatcher dumps a trainee's lunch on the floor and kicks it into a puddle, humiliating him in front of others. A snack vendor steps in, defying the dispatcher and losing her permit on the spot, then quietly cares for the trainee outside. The fallout leads to small but real changes in how the depot treats people, while a simple object on a dashboard hints at steadier days ahead. Just a quick note before we begin: hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. He tipped the brown paper bag onto the concrete by the dispatcher's desk. A ham sandwich slid out, slapped the floor, and smeared mustard. An apple rolled toward the drain. A bag of chips popped from the fall and hissed flat. He nudged the sandwich with his boot until it floated in a rainbow puddle under a parked coach that ticked and cooled. "Lesson 1, he said, voice steady over the radio chatter. "Trainees don't eat before rollout." The few drivers waiting at the board looked away. One snorted. Another shook his head and stared at his boots. The woman at the coffee cart heard the bag burst. She was lining up cups, sleeves, the sugar packets. The depot air tasted like diesel and fryer oil. Her hands went still on the napkin stack. The trainee was a young man with a buzzed haircut and a navy trainee vest that fit a little tight. His cheeks went blotchy. One knuckle bled where the paper bag had split and caught him. The name on his cheap plastic badge was printed crooked. He reached for the rolling apple and stopped when the dispatcher tesked. She knew the dispatcher. Grey polo, radio at his hip, clipboard tucked in his armpit like it lived there. He ran the board. He could reroute a whole line with a finger. He could also make a vendor disappear. She looked at the sticker on her steel cart, City Vendor Permit 12L, stuck beside a faded sticker that said cash only. There was a new compressor humming under the counter that had cost her 2 months of savings. Rent was due Friday. Her mother was waiting on a call about a dentist appointment. Losing the spot would knock down everything she'd stacked back up. The chips on the floor crackled under rubber soles. Someone laughed. The trainee blinked hard and stared at the mess like he could rewind it by looking long enough. She rolled her cart. The wheels squealed once and then settled. Cups clinked against each other in a soft, nervous way. She steered into the aisle, right between the dispatcher and the trainee. "Excuse me," she said. It wasn't loud, but it carried. She crouched and picked up the apple before it reached the grate. She wiped it on her red apron. Then she opened her hot box and pulled out a wrapped turkey sandwich and a napkin. She put the sandwich in the trainee's hand. "Eat," she said. "That's not a request." She set a bottle of water next to his foot. His mouth opened like he might argue, then closed. He nodded once. His hand shook. He didn't look up. The dispatcher's eyebrows went up. "You interfering now?" he asked. He tapped the edge of the clipboard with a pen. The radio at his hip crackled with someone asking about a dead stoplight. She stood. She kept one hand on the cart so it didn't roll. "You don't dump people's lunch," she said. Her voice was flat. No heat. "Give him 10 minutes. 10 minutes we don't have," he said. His tone was even. Tired. He drew a line down the sign-out sheet with that pen. 3 breakdowns this morning. Missing bus on the 42. Riders backed up to West. Trainees join the big kids or they wash out. She took a 20 from the tip jar and held it between 2 fingers. "For your mess," she said, "or the breakdowns, or whatever box you need to check." The apple was still tucked in her other hand. He looked at the bill like it offended him. "That's not how this works," he said. He didn't take it. He didn't look at the trainee either. He looked at his sheet and spoke into the radio. "Security to dispatch. Vendor is blocking operations." A driver in a cap cleared his throat. He shifted his weight. "Come on, man," he said, almost a whisper, to no one in particular. No one else said anything. The trainee stood frozen with the sandwich like it had weight he didn't know how to carry. "I asked you to move, miss," the dispatcher said, voice still calm. He reached over and flicked the corner of the trainee's crooked badge. The clip snapped off from the flick and fell with a soft clink. "And this," he added, holding the broken clip between 2 fingers, "is why we have policies." She didn't move. Her heart ticked high, but it didn't show. The whole room felt like a drum with a hand pressed against it. She could see the crumb under the dispatcher's boot, the smear of yellow on the floor, the slow spin of the apple as it stopped in her palm. 2 security guys came in, dark uniforms, high-vis strips. "You can't block this walkway," one said. He wasn't hostile. He was reading a script. "You gotta clear the aisle." She rolled the 20 back into the tip jar and snapped the lid. Then she looked the dispatcher in the face. "If you kick him, kick me." "But," Leave him alone. She lifted the corner of her permit sticker with her thumbnail and held it ready, like an offering or a dare. Okay, the dispatcher said. He didn't make a speech. He parked the permit sticker straight off the cart with one smooth motion. Adhesive snapped. He held the rectangle a beat, then stuck it to the edge of his clipboard. You're suspended. 30 days. You can appeal to licensing if you want. He tapped his radio again. Move her cart, please. It hit fast. She felt it in her stomach first, like a drop. The security guys turned the cart and started toward the back door. Spoons clattered in their bin. The coffee urn sloshed. The compressor thumped like a heart. The trainee flinched and tried to hand the sandwich back. She pushed his hand gently down. Back steps in 5, she said to him low. Do not throw that out. He nodded, eyes wet now. Hat brim pulled low. They walked her cart through the double doors to the service hall. A driver held the door with his foot and didn't look at her. In the hall, a girl from payroll pressed against the wall to let them pass. Someone's laugh echoed off concrete from far away, out of time. In the alley, the wind pushed exhaust into her face. She coughed and blinked. The security guy let go of the cart and wiped his hands on his pants. We cool? He asked, not unkind. We cool, she said. She pulled her phone out, thumbed a text to a number she knew by habit. Dispatch. Public shaming. Check cameras. L. Then she leaned her head against the cool steel side of her cart for 1 second, eyes closed, until she could breathe, without that hit going sideways. 5 minutes later, the back door creaked. The trainee came out with his hat in one hand and the sandwich in the other. His cheeks were dry again. He stopped like he wasn't sure if he was allowed outside. Sit, she said, tapping a milk crate. He sat. He held the sandwich like a fragile thing. She pulled a packet of wipes from under her register and cleaned the scrape on his knuckle. He winced once. She wrapped the finger with a strip of white tape from the drawer where she kept extra straws and napkins. Then she put the apple in his lap and an orange on top of it. Slow, she said. He took a bite like he hadn't eaten in days. He closed his eyes for a second. The top of the bus exhaust stack shot a gust of heat and sweet diesel across them. A gull shrieked from the roofline and was gone. The wind lifted the edge of the trainee's vest and showed the hem of a t-shirt underneath with a faded sports logo. I'm not supposed to be out here, he said, voice low. You're out here for 4 minutes, she said. You'll be fine. She was not interested in speeches. She reached under the cart again and pulled out a pair of blister packs of socks she kept for winter mornings when someone came in soaked. You need these. He looked at the socks, then at his shoes. The leather was scuffed thin at the toes. A lace was dark where it had been knotted onto itself. I'm okay, he said, but he took them anyway. He slid one thumb under the cardboard and set them on his knee. His backpack sat lopsided at his feet. The torn paper bag stuck out of the top. A corner of a government envelope showed, brown with a plastic window. A manila folder edge was bent. When he reached for the orange, the folder tilted. A paper slid loose and flashed its header. Temporary parenting plan. Required, stable employment. There was a crayon drawing tucked behind it, an uneven blue bus with 2 stick figures holding hands. He saw her see it. He didn't move to hide it fast enough to pretend. He pushed it back in and zipped the bag. Thursdays, he said, staring at his shoes. That's my day. I gotta bring proof. I can't miss hours. She nodded like he'd told her what the weather was. She looked at the slice of mustard on the edge of his sleeve and dabbed it with a napkin. What's your name? She asked. Dion, he said. Dion, he said. She got a Sharpie from her apron. She pulled a spare name clip from a drawer where she kept rubber bands and receipts. She wrote carefully. D-E-O-N, she asked. Yeah, he said, a little smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Thank you. You can pay me back in tips and gossip, she said. She clipped the badge to his vest. It sat straight. She checked it with her finger. And don't let anyone knock your lunch again. He huffed a breath that might have been a laugh. Then he ate fast but not desperate now. When he finished, he held onto the napkin like it might be useful later. He stood up and lifted the milk crate back against the wall without being asked. I'll make it up, he said. The sandwich. The socks. You'll make it to Thursday, she said. That's the only job. He nodded hard. He slung the backpack over one shoulder. He looked back toward the door and squared his shoulders before he went inside. She stayed outside with her cart and her empty permit spot. She watched forklift tracks dry in the breeze and checked her phone for a reply. Nothing yet. She poured herself a paper cup of coffee and took a sip. It tasted like burnt toast and pennies. She set it down and pulled her ledger. She drew a line through the day. Then she slid her cart under the bit of tin roof where rain wouldn't find it if the clouds decided to break. The next morning she set up a folding table on the sidewalk across the narrow street just outside the property line. A driver she didn't know dragged over a piece of cardboard to brace the table leg on the broken pavement. She strapped her coffee urn to the shopping trolley with a bungee. It was not pretty. It worked. From the doorway she could see the board. A new paper was taped to it. It said in block letters, "Training reviews are private. No public playback. Discipline in private. Use first names. My order of operations." Somebody underlined private twice. It wasn't a parade. It was something. Around 9, a woman in a leather jacket and a union badge appeared at dispatch. She didn't look over at the sidewalk. She talked to the dispatcher, calm and close. He gestured at a screen. She pointed at the ceiling and at the board. He rubbed his eyes with his thumb and forefinger and nodded once. Then he looked out at the floor and said, "Morning, folks," in a voice that sounded like it belonged to a person. Drivers crossed the street to her table in ones and twos. They paid in cash and left coins that were heavier than usual. A deli bag sat on the edge of her table around noon with "For You" written in a loopy hand. Inside was a hot soup, still steaming. In the bottom was a folded note. "Thank you. For him." No name. Her suspension came in the mail 2 days later, printed on letterhead with a box she could check to appeal. 30 days was the number. 2 weeks after that, a second letter arrived. Suspended term reduced to 14 days pending review. She snorted when she read that. "Someone got bored of me," she said to the wind, and taped the letter to the inside of her cabinet door. In those 2 weeks, a couple of small things shifted. The training room door stayed closed when videos played. Nobody dragged chairs to watch. A young woman in a reflective vest put up a small sign over the sink in the break room that said, "Don't touch other people's food." Someone else taped a Sharpie to the fridge with a length of string. Names went on lunches. The apple crate moved from the draft by the back door to under a shelf where it wouldn't roll away. Dion got a mentor. A driver with grey at his temple stood with him by the route map and traced a line with one blunt finger. They talked low. They walked a bus together before rollout, hands on the bars, checking latches. No show, just work. On Thursdays, a blue and pink hair tie hung from Dion's dashboard stalk. A child's drawing of a bus was taped by the fare box with a neat piece of clear tape. He stopped his coach at the curb where she had her table and didn't block the crosswalk. He held up 2 fingers without slowing, 2 coffees at lunch. She had them ready later when he came back, and he paid with a 5 and told her to keep the change. The dispatcher didn't say sorry. He did start using names. "Dion, you're on the 5, he said one morning, not trainee. He looked tired but less sharp around the edges. He didn't touch anyone's badge. When a driver spilled a coffee on the map, he handed over a towel and didn't say a word. A vendor permit came back on day 14 with a new gold sticker. She walked her cart inside with the same squeal on the wheels. The security guy gave her a nod. No ceremony. She peeled off the backing and stuck the sticker on, pressed from the center out to chase the bubbles. It lay flat and clean. She changed a few of her own things too. She kept a box of spare name clips under the register now, a roll of clear tape, extra socks, a small jar with a handwritten label, "New Dads." People tossed in 1s and 5s without talking about it. Sometimes Dion did, which made her shake her head and laugh. She didn't think about the first day every time she saw the dispatcher. Some days she forgot the way the mustard looked on the floor. Some days it rose up when the coffee was bitter and the wind cut through everything, and she wondered if she had been stupid. Then Dion would come in on time, shoulders not up around his ears, hair tie bright on the stalk, and she would be busy again, real busy, and it would pass. On a clear morning a month out, she watched him pull out of the bay on Route 7. The bus idled smooth. He checked his mirrors and signaled. His face was calm. The drawing taped by the fare box didn't flutter, because he had stuck it down on all 4 corners now. The blue hair tie caught a stripe of sun and made a simple, bright ring of color under the glass. She wrapped both hands around a paper cup to warm them and let the steam fog her glasses as the bus eased into traffic without a bump.